Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you for tuning in to my channel. You already know what to do. You know to subscribe, like, share. This one is going to be a little interesting because it's not just so much of me talking and teaching or joking or mannerisms where we're talking to the guys. It's me kind of allowing you into my world and sitting on a couch with me to have a conversation. And this is entitled, I'm Mad at God. And for those that know, and if you do not know, if you're new to my channel or you are new to hearing about me or whatever the case may be, 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I experienced a string of deaths in an 8-month span that changed my life forever. And it started with my stepfather. My stepfather and my mom had been married 20 plus years. He had been a part of my life, and I love my stepfather tremendously. He had been on dialysis for 20 years. He was a fighter, an amazing man, showed me, will try to undo a lot of male hurt and lack of trust for men in my life. And he was a pivotal part of my life, and something I would never take for granted is his lessons. One of the things he always told me was, this is my life, and I can remotely go out and do everything that I want to do. He used to always tell me that, you know, once I have been clothed and fed, I've clothed and fed my family. And, you know, as a single man. And so he challenged me to, you know, try new things, to go new places, to explore the world. He traveled a lot, and so he challenged me to do that. He challenged me on all different facets and aspects. But he was on dialysis for kidney issues for years, and he was a miracle within himself. And his body began to take a toll. I moved my stepfather and my mom to Huntsville, and when I moved them to Huntsville, I gave them a home, and my stepfather just kept saying, I know Adrian's gonna take care of you. I know Adrian's gonna take care of you. And we didn't understand, you know, really what he meant. And I think he knew that his time was coming to an end, and he got very sick. He ended up in the hospital, and I remember I was flying back from preaching out of town, and I landed in Atlanta, and I drove from Atlanta to Huntsville. And on my way from Atlanta back to Huntsville, I drove through Chattanooga to pick up my sister because my stepfather was in the hospital, my mom was at the hospital, and we just didn't know how it was gonna turn out. My mom just kept saying she was okay, and everything's gonna be fine. And so I got to Chattanooga to pick up my sister, and she got in the car, we hit the highway, and as soon as we hit the interstate, headed towards Huntsville, my mom called and said my stepfather had passed. And I remember, you know, my sister crying, but I remember me trying to suppress it, to be there for my sister, and to hear my mother on the phone crying. And one thing that breaks my heart is to hear my mom cry, you know, and see my sister cry. I try to be there for them. And then I knew that my older brother, who was in the hospital for lung cancer, I knew it was going to hurt him very, very bad. And his fight with cancer. And and so we had to call him and, you know, talk to my niece and my nephew, and, you know, all of that stuff. And I remember having to preach the funeral, and one of the points that I made in that sermon was, what do you do when God's harvest is our heartbreak? And you know, sometimes God receives in the harvest of what he's placed in people, but it breaks our heart that he receives that harvest. And then you know, our family began this, you know, this healing process. And as our family began the healing process, 2 months after my stepfather passed away, I get a call at 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was my uncle, and who we call my uncle, Uncle Tim. He's really a cousin. But he was very close to my dad, to my biological dad. And he called me and said my dad had been in a real bad car wreck. And he said, hey, he's on his way to the hospital. He's in a real bad car wreck. And I said, okay, give me a call when you guys find out anything. I got up and I started thinking, should I drive to Chattanooga? And I was sitting in Huntsville. It woke me up out of my sleep. It kept calling. And even to this day, like, I've become what you can call a light sleeper, I guess. And I don't like for people to call or text me random times of the night. It does something to my anxiety to this point. Like you know, if I'm up working, I just don't like for my phone. It's something about it now because I automatically think something is wrong. So I called my sister. My sister worked third shift. So my sister was getting off of work. I called she was at work, and I called my sister. I was like, hey, Dad's been in a bad car wreck. She lives in Chattanooga. I was like, can you have somebody take you to the hospital? And she works for a hospital, but not the hospital my dad was going to. So I was like, hey, can you have someone take you to the hospital, see Dad? She was like, yeah, for sure. You know, we're thinking, you know, it's just a bad wreck, you know. About 3 minutes later, my sister called me back screaming, crying, he's gone, he's gone, he's gone. And again, in that moment, I didn't cry either. You know, I think just trying to be there again for my sister, you know, at that point, you know, and she's hysterical. I relive that voice often. And hearing her cry like that just, it broke me. It broke me. And I got off the phone with her. Then my mom called because my sister talked to my mom, and my mom said, I'm on my way to your house. I'm on my way to your house. I said, no, Mom, I'm fine. I'm good. Just let me process this by myself. For those that don't know me, I'm a loner. And a lot of times people take that personal, like, oh, you know, you don't want to talk to me, you don't want to talk, or you just don't want to communicate. It's not that. It's that I've come to a place where I kind of process what I feel with me and my relationship with God. I don't look for anybody to save me from any situation outside of my relationship with God, you know. And a lot of times that can be hard because I don't allow, I guess, you know, friends to be there or whatever the case may be, or support to be there. It's a little bit of how I'm wired. The death of my father probably hurt the most because me and my father had a very strange relationship, but I love my father. In a lot of areas, I'm just like my father. And it probably caused the most pain, I guess you could say. And throughout this process, you know, my brother is still in the hospital. And with my biological father, I did his funeral as well, and had to speak at the graveyard site and try to give some type of hope and inspiration to people that were there, and to our family, and to my stepmom, and all while searching for my own inspiration or help or whatever the case may be. I don't know. And I distinctly remember when the funeral was over, I saw Keith and Sedelia. They are members of my church. and I saw them, and something about seeing them, I don't know, it gave me some type of feeling. I don't know what it did, but I hadn't cried. And in that moment, like tears, started to well up in my eyes, and I cried a little bit when I hugged Keith and Sedelia. But I kind of shook it off. I kind of brushed it off. I was the same way, a few years before this when my grandfather passed. I went into a room by myself and cried away from everybody else. And so back to my father, after the funeral, I remember getting in my car, and I just became kind of numb, and I remember texting my older brother. My older brother is my stepbrother, so he's my brother from my stepfather. He's been a part of my life, for a majority of my life. And I remember texting my stepbrother and him telling me that, everything's gonna be okay. And like he was like, I'm here for you, we'll get through this, blah, blah, blah. And, I was like, man, thank you. And 5 to 6 months after my dad had a car wreck, and I think probably the reason why my dad's death hurt the most is because he wasn't sick. It wasn't something like, he's in the hospital, or he is on dialysis or whatever. It was a shocking death. It was here today, gone tomorrow type of situation. There's no way to even mentally prepare for it. There's no way to wrap your arms around it or wrap your mind around it to say, oh, okay, this is kind of happening. And death is hard regardless. But, when someone, you feel like has lived their life, and, it's not that it makes it easier, but it probably makes it more copable for the individual. Probably, and so even though my stepfather's death was very hard, and I believe it's been harder for my mom than even myself or my sister. And, cause her normalcy is, is gone. Like she's normally sees her husband, wakes up to her husband, with her husband every single day, all of that stuff. It's the normalcy, is gone. With my father, I try to think about how it affects my stepmom. Her normalcy is gone. Me and my father didn't talk every day. We didn't have that type of relationship. Our relationship was very strange, but my father taught me a lot of things, whether he taught me through words or he taught me what not to do through actions. And then 6 months after my father, I was getting ready for my birthday and my pastoral anniversary. I never forget, it's in April. And my brother, we were celebrating the fact that my brother had got out of the hospital a few weeks before that. He got out of the hospital, he had been in the hospital battling lung cancer. They had him in so how it works, like you can be in the hospital or they put you in an apartment next to the hospital once you are starting to recover, but they want to keep their eyes on you because your immune system is very low, things of that nature. And so they want to kind of quarantine you, for lack of better terms. And, a lot of people don't understand processes of hospitals and apartments and stuff like that. So he got out of that apartment, that was next to the hospital. He was able to go home, and we were celebrating. Oh my God, yes, we got a victory. Like we were so excited. And honestly, I felt like I needed that victory. Like, I've been taking L's for the past few months. And then it was my anniversary, and my brother was supposed to come to my anniversary because it was supposed to be his first thing that he can come to where it's a group of people for the sake of his immune system. So we were like so excited he was coming. And then the day of my anniversary, I get up that morning and he shoots me a text and says, hey man, I got a bad stomach virus and I'm not gonna be able to make it. But once this passes next week, I'm gonna come, I'm gonna bring the kids, and we're gonna have a ball. I can't wait. I was like, bet, no big deal, everything's good, so forth and so on. The next week, he gets put into the hospital, and I have to go to Nashville to go see him in the hospital. And I watched my brother die. That probably was the exclamation point. It was kind of like, what else is there? Like, you literally, God, you've taken every male figure that I've looked up to out of my life. Every support system, like if things went bad, or if I made a financial bad decision and my money was low, and, I can go to, like, boom, I can go to my dad, or I can, even though my dad, man, my dad was a my enemy's necessary type of person. So like if he didn't have it, he was gonna figure out how to get it, like, and he was gonna make it happen. And that's how those are attributes that I have. My stepfather was the same way. My brother was the same way. And maybe that's where I get it from. I get a level of resiliency. But that exclamation point made me very upset with God. It made me feel at times, what did I do? It made me feel at times like God was punishing me. It made me feel at times like, dang, have I done this much wrong that all of these things had to happen the way that they happened? And I remember preaching my brother's funeral. I left out of the funeral home. My Pastor LeBrian Friend, was there for all 3 deaths. And I call him my spiritual father. And I remember him coming to my brother's funeral. And I remember him telling me and hugging me and telling me that, I'm gonna be here for you. And he has every step of the way. And I think a lot of times, like what grief does and what death does, it allows you to focus on what you have lost, but it doesn't allow you to focus on the support that you have, or the help that you have, or the people or the friends that are around you. People make jokes about the fact that I know a lot of people, or I'm friends with a lot of people, or whatever the case is. I may know a lot of people, but it's very far and few in between that I call people friends or family. And when I do call people friends and family, they're just that. And Pastor Bryant has been there from the jump. And but after that, I went on this. I didn't want to talk to God anymore. Now, mind you, I'm still pastoring a church. Mind you, I didn't really take a break like I probably needed to, and take time like I probably needed to. And then Huntsville, as much as I love Huntsville, started to remind me of grief. The city started to remind me of death, and I had to change my view on it. And it hurt. It still does. And the process of growing out of being mad at God is a process of you being honest about really what you feel. And I think a lot of times we want to tell ourselves what we should feel, but we're not honest about what we actually feel. So we'll say, oh, I should feel better, or I should feel this way, or I should feel this way. After the 8 to 9 month span of stepfather, dad, brother dying over a 9 month span, who's to tell me that I can, oh, you just need to get over it? I think that's the most insensitive thing for you to tell somebody that whose life has changed forever. They, I went through multiple nights of listening to voicemails from my father. I went through multiple nights listening to a snippet of a video I had of my stepfather singing to my mother at their wedding. I went through multiple nights just looking at receipts where I paid my stepbrother's cell phone bill. And then talking to his son and his daughter. Our relationship has gotten very strong with my niece and my nephew, because my nephew is my brother. He's legit just like my brother. And the process of growing out of being mad at God is I allow myself to sit in the emotions of what I felt. Be honest about what I feel. Because even though my feelings aren't facts, my feelings are truth in that moment. And the reason why I say your feelings aren't facts is because facts are a proven thing that can be proven every single day over time. We know that 2 + 2 = 4. That's a fact. We know that. It doesn't change. It is a principle that does not change. The thing about your feelings is that your feelings aren't facts because they change every moment. So how you feel today is not how you're going to feel tomorrow. Now you can, and that's what I pray for, is emotional stability. And anything that blocks my emotional stability, I'm going to stop talking to it, dealing with it, whatever the case is, because at this point in my life, I've realized that life is very short. I've realized that I can't be here today and gone tomorrow. I also realize that I don't want to live in regret anymore. I watched regret eat away at my father. And I watched every time we talked, he would talk about stuff that he should have did with his life. And I just realized I no longer want to do that. I just want to go after everything that I want to do. If it doesn't work, hey, I tried it. It's my life. And I shouldn't care about the opinions of other people and what they weigh in about, or, oh, if I was you, I would, but you're not me. And that's the process that I've kind of been going through in my own journey. But then coming out of being mad at God, I wish I could tell you that I don't still have moments. And I wish I could tell you that in the middle of the night, I can wake up and relive a phone call. I wish I could tell you that, as I work through stuff with my counselor, that there are times where anger doesn't set in, or I wish I could tell you that, anxiety attacks don't happen, or panic attacks don't happen, but they do. As much as there are a group of people that probably look at me as Superman, I have to realize that I'm also Clark Kent. I make stuff happen for my mom, make stuff happen for my sister, make stuff happen for my daughter. I adopted a daughter, and she's absolutely amazing. I love her. And she's been there to help me through all of these transitions, to give me an unconditional love and support. But I make stuff happen for all of these people. Then I realize that I got to make stuff happen for me. And the process of stop being angry at God or not being angry with God is a process that I'm still working through right now. And I know you're wondering, how in the world can you preach? How in the world can you pastor? How in the world could you encourage people and you still feel what you feel about God? I wish I could tell you that every pastor that pastors and every preacher that preaches gets up every single Sunday morning or Wednesday or Saturday, whenever they preach, and everything's fine with them. It's not. They have to fight through their own personal emotions, their own personal battles, the battles that they face throughout the week, and still get up and deliver a message to you of hope while they're still hopeless. They got to get up and tell you about faith while they're faithless, right? In that present point in time. Because they work beyond what they feel to give you what it is that they feel that you need. And I'm still working through it every day. But what I have committed to do, and this is how we can end this, but what I have committed to do is to work through it. Grief is not something that you put a timestamp on. And if you've had any loss, which I know if you're watching this video, you probably have, don't give yourself a time frame that you got to be okay. Don't give yourself, oh, I need to be okay by this time, or I need to, these feelings should be gone by now. It's been 2 years and I'm still battling. I'm still fighting, and I'm still feeling it like it was yesterday. Because here's the reality. Your memory does not have a time frame. If you think about that, you will think about that. Somebody did something to you years ago and you can relive it right now, and it feel like they just did it to you a few minutes ago. So it takes healing that allows you, and we tell people all the time heals all things. Not necessarily. And the reason why I say that is because if it's not properly treated, time is only going to infect it. It has to be properly treated and then allow it time. So that's the reason for counseling. That's the reason for dealing with your emotions. And that's the reason for videos like this, is that as I continue to grow and as I continue to address what I feel, and as I continue to address my true emotions as it pertains to my relationship with God, and that also as it pertains to my relationship with my family and things of that nature, I want to make sure I try to give it to you to kind of help you. But I've changed my prayer. I used to pray all the time, Lord, take grief away, take grief away, take grief away, take it away, Lord. I don't pray that anymore. Because if he took grief away, that also means that he takes the memories away. You grieve what you experienced and what you lost. If I was not grieving, then that means you also take the memories of who I've lost. I don't want you to take those away. I don't want you to take the time that my brother allowed me to get high for the very first time in my life. I don't want you to take the memories of arguments with my father and my father telling me that disrespect will never be tolerated, because that's what I live by now. I don't want you to take away my stepfather telling me, when you move into a new city, drive around and go get lost, because you're never really lost, and keep getting lost until you can find your way out of it. I don't want to take those memories away. So I've learned how that we say a phrase, or, people say this phrase and they be like, good grief. Like sometimes like good grief, but I realized that is a real saying. I want to have good grief, because if you take the grief away, it takes the memory away. And I never want God to take the memory away, but God allowed me to have good grief. So in my rehabilitation process with me and my relationship with God, I just been asking God to keep me in good grief, keep me in good memories, keep me in good standing, keep my heart posture right. Has this changed my life forever? For sure. Will I probably go back to the old AD or old Pastor AD? No. But I think that's a part of growth. And I always hold on to these men, my grandfather included, for the rest of my life. And they are why I'm working so hard to build a legacy. And the majority of people don't understand that. They don't understand when you experience a death or multiple deaths, or just death in general, it changes your outlook on life. And it's very hard to try to get people to understand the reality that they have not experienced. And so my focus right now is to build legacy for my family. And then when you think about, when you've had death like this, you start thinking about, well, what legacy do I need to hurry up and build before my time comes? And that's what I'm doing, building legacy. Because as my grandfather told me, real ministry outlasts your breath. That's what it is. I want it to outlast me. What I create, I want it to outlast me. I want my great grandkids to be living off of what I started in 2020. And so I hope this helps you in some type of way. I fought back tears this whole video. But if my story, my narrative, and my life can help you any type of way, this is what I want it to do. And so if you know anybody that has experienced death or experiencing death right now, or grief or emotions or whatever, allow them to sit in it. Pray for them. And a lot of times praying for them and being there for them is not having all the right answers. It's not even being present with them. It's just praying for them. Stop trying to enforce how you think someone should recover based on them. Like, oh, I'm going to come and I'm going to be there and I'm going to be present. Sometimes your distance is what is needed. Sometimes it's your prayers to God. A lot of times, like when somebody's going through grief, we want to hurry up and rush and be there with them to brag to other people how we were there for them. You know, when so-and-so died for them, I was there. I was present. I showed up. That's not for them. That's for you. Allow them the space and the time that they need. You respect a person by giving them their space, if that's what they're asking for. So if you know somebody that's dealing with it, send this video to them. Share this, comment, keep me in your prayers, keep my family in your prayers. But I appreciate you for listening to this. And maybe we'll have more moments of sincere processes and talks on the couch. But this is just something that I wanted to give you. And this is something that I wanted to kind of break up the fun and the laughs and the jokes and the serious talks on this channel and give you something that's from my heart. But as I end every show, I'm going to end it the same way, because that's what I tell myself every day. You're doing better than what you think you are, and God is doing more than what you think he is. You're doing better than what you think you are, and God is doing more than what you think he is. Now, you can make it personal, because that's what I do. I say, Adrian, you're doing better than what you think you are, and God is doing more than what you think he is. This kind of helps me get out of that point of anger, right? So share, subscribe, like, comment, all of that good stuff. I'll see you guys very soon.